Hi, I'm excited about this video. Okay, so I hope this works. Take this with a micro budget level understanding. Just was in January at a seminar workshop or whatever for PAs for a Greater Cleveland Film Commission. My accent hates that. So I have some information from there and I have a little bit more understanding than I usually would have. But as I'm watching a lot of these videos, I've not seen many people talk breaking down what's an executive producer, what's a producer, isn't that the same thing? Executive producer, and it gets confusing because executive producer is at the top kind of the hierarchy, but also kind of not because they are doing different functions anyways. And then also, and I didn't include a slide, I forgot, but I'm gonna try to kind of cover also shoot. um ooh I didn't include talking about, maybe I'll I'll show my little notes, like the Sony hierarchy kind of thing. Oh boy. All right, anyways, okay. So, let's go. We'll start with a brief timeline. So, 2016, Colleen Hoover writes the book, or publishes the book, I should say, however long it took her to write it. In 2019, Justin Baldoni purchases the rights to make a movie off of this book. In 2021, the book goes viral through TikTok, Book Talk, and I know the right word, the right spelling of that. And then 2023, pre-production and production starts. I couldn't find exactly the timeline of pre-production because between 2019, honestly, you could maybe not technically call that pre-production. Depends on what they did, how involved they were in, you know, starting the process anywhere in between 2019 and 2023. Moving on. So I found this chart through a Google search. I don't did I include? I didn't include. I'll include the original below the uh, reference below. But okay, so development. Sorry, I should have Googled development. But yeah, so anywhere between 2019 and 2023, the project could have been in development. All of that time or part of that time, and so, a lot of this I'm going for the first time myself through. So, um, this is theme script. It's a little, depending on where it starts. But we were an adapting from a book kind of thing. I wasn't part of this. Anyways, the adaptation, and then you go to, I guess, the synopsis, and then you go to the script, and then you go to stage direction and dialogue, and then you go into conflicts, and then you go to character development, and then it's kind of like you go nowhere. The resolution, there's some brainstorming. Anyways, so you adapt the book into a screenplay, and then also finding funding and making the whole game plan could be around this time. Not the whole game plan of the movie, but what needs to happen before the movie can happen. Um, and then you have pre-production, and in pre-production, you go from, I guess, where did you? This is kind of this made sense. I got excited, and now I'm a little like, oh, maybe it's not the best one I would do. So then you have the planning and the design, and then you have the construction of props, sets, costumes. This is pre-production. The storyboard, budgeting, crew hiring, shooting schedules. You also have actors, casting, artistic, which is like makeup artist, hairdresser, costume designer, musical composer, art director, set designer, props builder, head carpenter. All of those are hired in the pre-production and decided in pre-production stage. Usually, managing You have the producers and the production manager and director, assistant director, sound manager, publicist, casting director, director of photography. And then you have the technical part, the sound mixer and designer, the sound editor, camera operator, assistant camera operators, steady cam operator, electrician or electricians, lighting technician, film editor, colorist. Yeah, no one's talked about the colorist, but that's a fun one. I kind of say that sarcastically. It's fun when you do like zero budget production. Sometimes depends, but I've gotten to taste a bit of almost every part of this. Almost. I've not made costumes. Um, I've done my own makeup, but anyways, and then for budgeting, this is where the you allocate money for the whole production part. Advertising, promotion, story rights, screenplay, production costs, visual effects, and music. And then you go into production. So in production, you start shooting, you have rehearsals. Those are kind of ongoing and before something happens. But I don't know if it's like ongoing for everything. Also, keep in mind that as we've all heard, different directors do different things, different sets are different. There's all sorts of various ways you can do this, but this is, I guess, the blueprint that you can go off on a tangent from, on a road trip, on a dirt road. Anyways, so then you have the shooting. It starts after primary. You have setup, and then where does it go? Oh, to sets. Oh, okay. So you like set up the sets. But yeah, clapperboard recording. This did this need to be in here? But okay. Um but yeah, you have the director's approval, and then you have a wrap party. So you like shoot the movie, the director approves the movie, which didn't happen, and then you have the wrap party. And then you go into post production where you have like audio and video, the coloring, so making sure that everything's colored. Oh gosh, what's I don't even know it by the word colorist and coloring. I forget the other name that I have for it. Um and then you have the trimming, rough cut, fine cut. I know a rough cut with YouTube, that's a big popular term. And then the sound effects and the score, addition of original or adapted score, etc. Moving on. So that's kind of like the rough stages. Went that through that quite fast. And I might do a second one, maybe more in depth or so forth, because I'm trying this for the first time. And also I wasn't exactly prepared. I thought I was done. And then I was like, oh shoot, I didn't include this. And I haven't done a video in a few days, so I'm kind of thrown off. But anyways, so this is recreated. I typed this in and recreated this from a screenshot that they showed us at GCFC. That's not easier to pronounce. Greater Cleveland Film Commission. So this is the way that they set up their org chart on a film set. They had like a film set and a TV show org chart, but we're not talking. That was I looked at that, I'm like, okay, take a screenshot for maybe later on knowing, but I've not done any TV shows in any kind of way, and I don't necessarily see that in the near future, but it's good to know, but we're not talking about this here. So someone asked, or someone was talking about like film doesn't have an org chart. They do. Now, again, depending on the budget tier, depending on the people working on it, depending on the story, all this stuff. And this is not documentary style. This is like, fiction movie or whatever. Um, things can change, but these are like the blueprints, and this might look different, and it does kind of look different than what you can find online, but I feel like this one really kind of, how do we just sorry, this one kind of really sets, I don't know, it just kind of makes it very clear to me. Wait, shoot. Sorry. So you have the studio. Now, I was a little confused. The studio is Columbia Pictures that no one talked about. And I even said, like, is that the same as Sony? Because there was something that said Columbia Pictures dash like Sony, or not dash, but like a line, and then Sony Pictures. Um, and no, I'm gonna look that up just now, just to make sure and double check. Um, Aru, just okay. So, okay. Columbia Pictures is an American film production and distribution company that is the flagship unit of the Sony Pictures Motion Picture Group. Okay. So, yes, never trust ChatGPT. This was a combination of my knowledge and Google and then ChatGPT. And I think I relied on this for ChatGPT because I was asking, like, is this the same thing? And I know. So it is and it isn't. But yeah, so you have the studio here, that's Columbia Pictures, and then you have the production company. You have studio production companies, Wayfarer Studios, the producers, and all the other stuff. And the distributor is, I think, kind of like added later sometimes. My understanding, maybe not. I don't know, but um I'll have to make an amendment on tomorrow's live for talking about that. I did not do all my homework. All right, so you have those, and then off of those, you have the line producer. Yeah, and I'll talk about each of these, the big important ones later, but I just wanted to show like the whole thing at first. So you have the studio, the line producer. On Google, oftentimes it's like executive producer, and it is kind of executive producer is at the top. It gets confusing. I'll talk about producers. I'll break down all the producer stuff in 2 slides, or 3 slides. But then you have the director and the production manager and producer or producers, and these kind of work together. And you under the director, you have the script supervisor that's very much with the director. It's like their right hand person. And then you have the director of photography. And the way that I learned it, kind of from like England at least, times, was like, you have the director, the cinematographer, and I guess and the producer, or like um I don't know why I remember this, like, director, cinematographer, and, like, location scout are, like, kind of the ones that start the ball rolling. I guess the producers are there, but they're really kind of just taking care more probably of the business side of things, getting funding, green lights, all the stuff. But as far as, like, production work and scene analysis and, all that, but yeah, anyway, but yeah, the director kind of is really the top person on the film set. He's like the captain. He's the captain of the film set. Or she's the captain. I'm sorry. Yeah, gender bias right there. And you just saw it. Um, so you have the director of of photography, or the cinematographer. You have under them the gaffer, best boy, electricians. I wonder if they changed that. Guess just to grip. Then you have key grip, best boy grip, grips, and those I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's like lighting related grips and gaffers, right? What? No. The gaffers are lighting and grips are audio, or like both? Where is audio in here? I don't see the audio. Anyways, all right. Need to do more of my homework. Then you have the camera operator, first assistant camera operator, or whatever, and film loader, video assistant, playback assistant. That was new to me. DIT, have no idea what that means. Another story for another video. Not really important for here right now, as far as we know the story. Then you have the key, like hair, makeup, the casting directors, etc. and those are kind of their own little clump. And then you have production design. Production design, the production designer is like the head of that department. The director, the cinematographer, director of photography is the head of the camera department, and all that, like video, visual and audio type things. I think it's audio too. It has to be audio. And then you have the first AD, that's kind of the head of that department, sort of, for my understanding. That one's a little bit murky, kind of. Anyways, then the location manager. So it's kind of, this that part is um uh, the, like, next tier down. For the makeup and hair, I believe it's under production designer. It would make sense. And I use Backstage for some of this information, the details that I'll talk about in a second, in a minute, a few minutes, a couple minutes, not many minutes. And I feel like that goes in there too, like with the costume designer and so forth. So it would technically be on this side. I don't know, but they had it this way. And someone said, like, casting director, that I didn't do my homework, or I didn't know what I was talking about, or whatever. And the casting director is the person that decides the casting. And it's like, that was the first time I heard it that strict, because I was like, no, the director decides the casting for the major roles. At least has final decision. Like, imagine, it's just like, that doesn't make any sense. But I did do my research, because I'm like, well, maybe I just don't know. And it turns out that, yeah, the director has final say. But or yeah, but or even the producers, depending on the budget and so forth. But the casting directors are given the instructions from the director's vision, and or producers, not indoor, but definitely, like, if producers are involved or not, the director is really like the person that this is the vision of that person. The whole movie is the vision of the director. Producers can get involved more or less. Some, like, really more. I remember working on Fast and the Furious and hearing for the first time, and then, learning to understand that producers can really, like, butt in. I forget who was one of the producers. One of the actors was the producers on Fast and the Furious movie that I was on. And I remember, like, I don't know, like, someone, or just, like, being the talk that, you know, that actor didn't who was also the producer, didn't like it. So some producers have a lot more hands-on than others. I, in my heart of hearts, believe that the producer should stay away from, it's not their movie. When you see a film by, it's not the producer that's credited. When you, like, watch a movie and they're there day to day, it's like, well, if you as the producer are doing it, then why do you need the director? Just to use them for their, like, expertise, but not consult them, not, like, have them be their vision. I mean, that's kind of the only thing that the director does, is guide the vision and be the vision of whatever the project is. So that's, like, my 2 cents. That's my belief. That's not exactly how it goes. So there are politics and so forth. Um, but anyways, and again, it'll make a little bit more sense once I get, hopefully, into the producer breakdown, the different producers. But you have the production designer, that's the art department, kind of. Then you have the art director under the production designer, and then you have, like, painters, carpenters, excuse me, props, etc., set decorators, and I included in the next slide, costume designer also go under here. Then you have the first AD and all the assistant directors and the production assistants. Technically, production assistants are, all of, I think, all of the different categories, but primarily, like, you know they're definitely needed for the AD part, to make sure that people are like going and coming and stopping and whatever that is needed on set, and maintaining paperwork. And paperwork is like, it depends. Anyways, um, so you have the first AD, assistant director. The first AD is not a director in terms of, it's not like the right hand person of the director, in terms of like, a director in training. The first AD is like the assistant to the director, as um I feel like it's a pretty unique situation. I can't see anything else here that kind of can relate. I'll get into, these roles as well, this first and second AD. But they are, I would kind of equate them to like the managers. If the director is kind of like, I think the president of a company, the producer would be like the CEO maybe, or something. And then, um it's the producer doesn't quite go in like, at least from what all that I know, and I don't know everything, I'm limited in my knowledge, but they don't fit cleanly into any role in the corporate world. But then you have the first AD, that would be, like a maybe the first AD is kind of the CEO. It's running the day-to-day things. Sorry for my lack of words. um Day-to-day operations. So maybe it's like chief operating officer. Yeah, because the CEO is more like finance and things, kind of like that. And then you have the other ADs. You have the location managers and key and assistant location managers, coordinators, scouts, etc. You have the production coordinator. This, I'm not actually 100% sure on this. I wonder if I included it or not. And then the controllers is the accounting department. And then you have the transportation department. This is what we'll be kind of focusing, not every single one, but these I kind of highlighted as the ones that are, except for the controller and transportation, and maybe even I think production coordinator kind of goes into this. But yeah, location controller, transport is not quite pertinent to the story as of yet. Um as of yet is an interesting phrase. But yeah, and you can see over here at the bottom you have costume designer, and that's important. It's important for our story. All right. So, who are these people in our story? It ends with us, our story. And then what do they mean? So, you have the executive producer. As I said, on Google, if you Google film org chart, they're likely to show up at the top. Why? They're not the visionaries. They're not the ones that decide the vision or have the vision or carry out the vision. They, as I will read, this is from backstage.com. Executive producers are at the top of the pyramid from a business standpoint. EPs are primarily responsible for acquiring or providing funding for the film, and sometimes for assembling creative talent. That can mean anything from landing major box office stars to liaising with investors. So, business standpoint, super important. This is what Blake was hired to be. And they were talking about this like being often a formality for big stars because, and I don't know if I include this a little later, they're also often executive producers because of their status and their brand recognition, their name recognition. They're seen as driving not just funding potentially, but people to come see the project. So, and sometimes executive producers come in like at the last minute just to add their name so people can like gravitate more to go watch, or at home, or in the theater. So that's what executive producers are. This is what Blake Lively was originally signed up as. They do not make creative decisions. which is why she asked for the change. But it was kind of or like, if you scanned through the lawsuit, you would have missed it, kind of, except for the PJ mark, which I also will get into. The producers is what she wanted eventually. Which, so when people talk like she was just an actress, she was just an actress. Yes, she was an actress hired as an actress with executive producer credit. That means like she was responsible for marketing, distribution, kind of like incentive to the public, et cetera, et cetera. And like maybe acquiring funding, which I thought was funny because she was costing them more money, but she wasn't getting them more money. And instead of focusing on what she was hired there for, bringing in money through viewership and or funding, and primarily even more so for acting, like she did none of these, right? She was focusing on everything that was not her job. So when people say she was just an actress, one part is like not correct. She was an executive producer too. But at the same time, it doesn't matter because she wasn't doing that job well either, from what we saw. Where was the funding that she was bringing in to especially supplement the increase in budget that happened, after she came? And you might say, well, wasn't the budget, earlier on we saw the budget goes into pre-production stage, and that happened like after she signed on technically. I don't have 100% the dates of all of these and what they did. They could have been in development that they did the budget. But anyways, so executive producers were Andrea Jemian or Hemian. I don't know. Sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. Todd Black. I believe he was the one that Blake wanted. I don't know why. I think just randomly that popped into my head. Andrew Kaloff, Kaloff, Colleen Hoover, for obvious reasons. It's her book. John Logan Pearson, Steve Sarowitz, who's the backer, Justin's backer in the lawsuit, and Ed Wayfair, and then Blake Lively. I said originally was one until she pushed for producer credit, PG mark. But I think she's still listed as an executive producer as well. Still, um, I do have her grayed out for producers because, uh, to be fair. All right, so producers report to the EP and take a more active hand in the production itself. Producers typically work with the line producer to establish budgets, communicate creative notes to the director, manage business operations, and ensure the production is running on schedule. Creative notes to the director, communicate the notes to the director. Why? So the director can make his or her decision. you know it can be like, hey, more forceful, nudge nudge, if you don't do this, like, you need to do this. But still, the director has the final say. So producers were Christy Hall, who's also the screenwriter, Jamie Heath, Blake Lively, it was added on later, and Alex Sachs. This is why I thought Alex Sachs was Steve Sarowitz, but I got them mixed up. Anyways, but yeah, so these were the producers. Originally, it was just Christy, Jamie, and Alex. But again, this is still not really what Blake did, and she went against her even producer um roles based on what we know so far. She didn't ensure the production was running on schedule. She made kind of the opposite. She was making it run late and just like all over the place. She was asking for more things. Like, she wasn't even a producer. So when, she's saying like, "Oh, I can't just be an actress. I need to be the producer as well." I don't think she even understands this org chart. I don't even think she understands like the definitions of the roles that she wants. She wants to be a director. She wants to be a director. That's all that she did on this movie, was like the director's job. It wasn't the producer's job. It wasn't the executive producer's job, which she's credited as. Yes, again, like In some instances, you have producers that get a little bit more pushy and, but technically, technically, it's the director's vision. What's a line producer, you say? It's a good question because I remember this was I think the initial like title of the initial role that I did, when I was like, oh, I think I want to be behind the camera. Line producers oversee every aspect of the film's budget. They may also do logistical troubleshooting on set if an issue that arises concerns the movie's bottom line. LPs report to the executive producer. I wonder where was Helga Gruber, who's listed as the line producer for this movie, where was she in all of this? When she was seeing the budget was rising, because of Blake's change of wardrobe. Where was she when the movie's bottom line was of concern, to use their their definition? And then you have like these other. Oh, I do mention the production coordinator. Excuse me, the unit production manager reports to the line producer and makes sure payroll, call sheets, shooting schedules, and anything else that affects the budgets get done. It's interesting because that's what I heard about the second AD, but it's probably like, the unit production manager is the manager of those ADs, right? Whereas the unit production manager, I don't even have it on here. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, it's over here. There we go. I just missed it because it was like coupled in with producer for them. And then you have the production coordinator who keeps track and organizes all of that paperwork while also managing the film's production assistants. Okay. So you have the production manager, you have this, which I guess this should go on. That's so confusing. Anyways, but there are two different sources. So backstage.com probably has a different hierarchy org chart. But the idea is still very much the same. Like it's any kind of changes are like pretty minor. So for the production coordinators, Linz Adams, Jonathan Edward Matze, and Nick Pizzino. That is probably not how they pronounce their name. I went very Italian on them. Anyways, so although the roles blend, there's a distinct difference between an executive producer and a producer. Executive producers secure the screenplay, which was already done, raise money for the film, hire trusted producers to run a self sufficient operation on a day to day basis. So Blake's like, oh, I'm executive producer. I negotiated that part so I can hire myself as the producer so I can actually be the director and, everything else. Um, because like the costume designer is kind of influenced. I'll get to the costume designer role is an interesting one, but you could say it is kind of influenced by the director because it's their vision, unless it's like a period piece, and then the director might have like yes, I want this to be true to the period, or we can take some liberties or whatever. Much like attaching star acting talent, an EP's reputation can bolster the credibility of a project. Spike Lee's name would propel a film project forward, just as Aaron Sorkin's attachment would on a new TV series. Many times, an EP with clout will put their name on a finished product to boost distribution. That's where I read that. Once financing is secured, I'm sorry, I know, slides with text. Never thought I would be that person. This is a kind of a different slide though. Once financing is secured, the EP may or may not be even involved. Some walk away and work on other projects, others continue to supervise the production. Either way, the crew involved in the production relies on the executive producer to make major decisions, but not creative decisions. They weren't very clear on that. The producer, and she didn't claim. She claimed the producer. She wanted the producer because that's a little bit more gray area. The producer reports directly to the executive producer. Producers play a hands-on role and are involved in the daily production. Since it is difficult for one person to keep track of every aspect of a film set, a producer will often hire assistant producers. Another key producer role is ensuring the project is on budget and notifying the executive producer should it get off track. I mean, she was both. And again, she didn't she did not care about the budget or to finance it. She was like, I'll do whatever I want with this movie on their budget. I'm not going to add anything to this. Again, from what we know, maybe she did. It would be incredibly messed up to be like, hey, I want to take control of this project. I'm going to not just piggyback off of all the work you've done and all that you have to contribute to this, which is I think why they kept stressing like this was on our dime and Sony's dime, and Wayfair's dime. But it's kind of like that wasp that infects, what is it? Forget what it infects, something like caterpillars or something with a certain virus, and it just like that virus go, I forget, but that's kind of what Blake is. She's a parasite. Literally, literally. Not the good, because there's some good parasites like those fish that um symbiotic parasites, the fish that like munch on like sharks, clean them off or whatever, or whales. Technically those are parasites too, but those are beneficial parasites. They're symbiotic, nature, their ecosystem. I'm throwing out words. I know symbiotic is in there. I just can't find the right words. But anyways, but she literally, from what we know, so again, maybe we don't know the whole picture, maybe that would change. From what we know and what she has said herself in her own words at Forbes, and she has said similar things at other interviews, written and verbal, where she comes into a movie that's already, secured funding, already like written the screenplay, hired everyone, etc., etc., and she just takes over the fun part. She didn't say it this way, but I'm saying like that's what she does. She doesn't put in the hard work. Yes, like to come up with like costume concepts or whatever, you could sort of say it's hard work, but I don't think she actually did the hard work there. And I'll get to what actually costume designers do. But, rewriting the scenes and all that stuff, I mean, it's just like, it's painful. It's painful. And I think one positive that I hope this whole, not just the lawsuit, but the whole media around the lawsuit, and not the media, because the media is definitely bought. That's been confirmed, all that stuff, and not by the people that they say are, doing a whole smear campaign. Ironically, they're the ones, Blake Lively's team are the ones that are buying the media and having their smear campaign. So it's like projection. But anyways, allegedly, I don't know. It just, that's like my observation. It's not a fact. It's not really an allegation. I guess it's an allegation. I don't know. But that's what I'm observing is happening. And most of us are observing it's happening. But anyways, so she just latches on after everyone does their hard work and does just the fun parts, and she doesn't even do that much research on them. And sadly, if it's true, she did research on going diving with sharks, but not for in the shallows or whatever, but not to meet with victims and survivors. Someone, I think it was Donna, I don't remember though for sure. Someone was saying how she probably saw this as how Ryan found himself in Deadpool, that he could like shape that world and become synonymous with him. She probably thought, oh, this is mine, because there's like more books and she can have her own like legacy, sort of. It's really disgusting and terrible if that's true. This was not the movie. Unless, and you could have this be the movie if you treated with respect and honor, which she did not. And not because of all of this, but because she didn't do her homework or whatever led to her making just errors that she shouldn't have made at all. They weren't like understandable errors, you know. I digress. All right. So this is a quote. Shoot. Mary Allo quote. I thought it was interesting. I'm a producer who does financing, packaging, talent, and crew, says Mary Allo, owner of Allo Entertainment, whose recent films include Flag Day with Sean Penn, Worth with Michael Keaton and Stanley Tucci, and Bruised with Halle Berry. I don't know how old this is. I don't know any of these movies. Is that too new or too old? I can't tell. However, I've done about 39 movies, and if you look at my IMDb Pro, you'll be able to see where I'm coming in as an executive producer versus a producer, she continued. I'm the lead producer on not only my own movies coming up, but other movies too, which I've been hired on to bring in all the elements. I hire the crew, package the movie, and bring in the financing. When I'm executive producing, I'm often credited for that because I've strictly brought in the financing for the picture. Sometimes I'll do a little bit more, I'll bring in the distribution, things like that, but I'm really not the hands on producer. I'll go to the set, but the difference is coming in on a financial level. Okay. Just like Sarowitz was like sometimes visiting the set, just checking in, but he wasn't really involved. But again, she insisted for the producer credit, which is more involved. The budget tiers. This I had such a like schema in my mind. The day that we're able to link, like in the Matrix, link our brain directly to a computer, AI or whatever, and tell it what we envision in our minds to do. That'd be also probably scary and not good, but that will help on presentations because I can see it in my head that this is not what it was. So this is from ChatGPT, and I have also from Greater Cleveland Film Commission, but this is really confusing and it's quite different. And I think this is more for like this region. But I'll go through this first because yeah, we'll just get this out of the way. But you have the micro budget, non-union, $0 to $1.5 million, $0 to 1.5 million. The ultra low budget, which is tier 0 at 0 to 3 million. That's the union from here on out. Tier 1A and Tier 1B. Then you have Tier 2, 9 million to 12.5 million. Tier 3, up to 15 million. And then this was interesting and confusing because you have zero, yeah, IATSE, or like IATSE takes its backing out or something past 15 million or something like that. But then the tier name they had was IATSE basic agreement. So something changes, I guess, with that. But let's go back to this one. So this is the ChatGPT version, and it looks pretty plausible. So you have the no budget, 0 to 50,000. Did I misspell thousand? No, it just looks weird because I should have just put the zeros because it's thousands. But yeah, micro budget is 50,000 to not $50, 50,000 to 500,000. Low budget, I wrote it more normally, is 500,000 to 5 million, which this was the mid budget, which was 5 to 50 million. I wondered the original budget if it was vastly different, but it probably was still in the mid budget by this tier. Big budget is 50 million to 150 million, and anything really over 150 million is a blockbuster, especially over 400 million. And then it ends with us was 25 million, so it sits over here in the middle. Now, the other key people, the director. The director's creative vision guides the film. Along with the producers, they are at the top of the crew hierarchy. They are creatively in charge, and lead production from start to finish. A significant part of a director's job is doling out instructions to every department to ensure that each aspect of the finished product fits their blueprint. I think this should be as at the bottom of all our screens when we're talking about this case. The script supervisor, this I just included for like funsies. The script supervisor maintains the story continuity throughout production. That includes everything from where a prop is placed to how an actor delivers a line. This position is separate from the film's screenwriter who pens the script but often isn't on set. The screenwriter. The first assistant director, AD, the first AD, maintains both the daily shooting schedule, overall production timeline. Oh, missed an end there. The first AD communicates instructions to the department heads to make sure every day on set runs smoothly. This is Julie A. Bloom, and I put a question mark on all of these people because who are the ones that were fired? I'm guessing Julie A. Bloom, which is ironic that she has the last name of the main character, but I'm guessing she was hired. She was the final one, not the initial one, because I couldn't find any other one, any other name with the first AD. Now for the second AD, maybe um I don't know. Is Carrie Lee Finlay Zotter? That's I'm guessing a guy. So is Carrie Lee, although that could be a guy too. We know that the first AD and second AD were fired, the original ones. The second AD oversees logistical duties such as creating and distributing call sheets and making sure that talent is on set when needed. The second AD and like the first AD is kind of like guiding the talent once on set, oftentimes, like telling everyone, hey, well, not just the talent though, but I believe what they were saying in the workshop that there could be one or maybe a key production assistant or something like that that's like just in charge for like the main top talent. The second AD, or sometimes second AD is sometimes they could have gone a little bit more creative. Like why didn't they call them a third AD? Or like an assistant second AD or something. I don't know. Is sometimes responsible for directing background performers. Um, yeah. All right. So I actually had like I think on Fast and the Furious, I think the first AD was maybe not. No. Yeah, there were like okay. Anyways, then the second unit directors capture B-roll, action, or pick up shots with their own crew. They exist independent from the film's primary hierarchy, however, and they can have their own hierarchy, kind of like the main director, but there is none in this one. So the production designer, this is where we get into the fun costume saga. A production designer is responsible for the overall look of a project by taking the script, the director's vision, and the producer's plan and budget and turning them into a visual story. Taking the director's vision. The production designer is the head of the art department. Their work also touches multiple other departments and runs through all of three stages of production: pre production, principal photography, which is production, and post production. In short, the production designer has a hand in every visual element of a project, which is why I said that's weird that they had hair and makeup separate on their chart, but not really relevant at this point. Production designer, costume designer. So the production designer is over the costumer or costume designer. The costume designer designs sources and creates the clothing. This is going to get really cool, and accessories worn by the characters in a film, series, or theatrical production. Their main job is to telegraph who a character is via what they're wearing. A costume is one of the first things viewers see, and it gives audiences an idea of the story that's about to unfold. To achieve this, costume designers who head the wardrobe department and are responsible for staffing and managing the team ready, must tap into their inner psychologist, sociologist, researcher, historian, and actor. Juggling these roles helps them to design, create, compile, and fit the most appropriate outfits and accessories to each character to serve the needs of the narrative and the director's vision. Like I said, period piece. Some directors will be like, yes, let's keep this like true to the period. Some are like Bridgerton, like let's take some liberties. But I love, I highlighted or bolded this part. They tap into their inner psychologist, sociologist, researcher, historian, and actor, because how the actor moves, or how are they, like, what's their motivation, and like their journey and all this stuff. But I love, like, she did not tap into any of these, none of these. Maybe actor. I think she just tapped into like herself, like the idea of herself or something. I don't know. Now, this I haven't actually read yet, so we're doing this together. Who does it represent? The PG mark. This is all from Backstage, and then the rest of it will be from the Producers Guild Awards .com. What does it represent? It identifies which producers performed a majority of the producing functions on a specific motion picture in a decision making capacity. So, on one hand, sorry to go back, on one hand, you could say she deserved it, but it wasn't earned. She deserved it because she did make a lot of the major decisions, but she forced that. Like, she wasn't hired for that, and it wasn't earned. She coerced them to for her to deserve it. I really hope that SAG, or the Producers Guild of America, I hope they get into this at one point, because it's not fair. They're probably sitting there like, well, it happens all the time. But here's your chance to do the right thing, p.g.a. All right, so guidelines and requirements. Produced by job description. So this is like the credit, produced by, the job description of that. The produced by credit applies to individuals primarily responsible for the, sorry, this is so small, for the origination and or management of a motion picture's production and delivery. This role involves personally making regular, continuous, and substantial decisions regarding creative, production, budgetary, and legal concerns in a constructive and responsible manner across the film's 4 stages of production. Yeah, there was nothing responsible from her, from what we see. From what we see. So, allegedly. Produced by responsibilities across the 4 stages of production typically include the performance of the following producing functions in a decision making capacity: development, developing the film's concept, securing rights and initial funding, selecting the writer, and guiding the development process. Did not happen for this one, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be like all of them necessarily. Pre-production, selecting a key. I believe it doesn't happen, right? They're saying something like across the film's 4 stages of production, but I don't think. Oh, that's interesting, because she wasn't part of the development. Pre-production, selecting key creative and physical production team members, location scouting, and overseeing the final script, final schedule, and final budget. So, then scout locations from what we know. She kind of selected, Isabella from what we know, or she had a say in it, or I don't know. Overseeing the final script and final, she did have a lot of script hands on. And then the final schedule and final budget. Yeah, well, she increased the budget, but didn't back it up with funding. Production, and she and she increased the schedule. Whatever. Production. Over, she literally did the opposite of a producer. She made it worse than better. She, like, Instead of helping the production, she did a disservice to the production in so many ways. Okay, in production, overseeing daily operations, consulting with and resolving issues raised by the key physical production and creative staff, and liaising with financial, studio, and or distribution partners. Yeah, she kind of did that. But again, no one asked her to. No one really allowed her to, except they eventually did. Oh shoot, I have to like your camera is low. Should be on the other side. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Post production and marketing, engaging closely with post production teams, and strategizing on marketing and distribution. This, she had, I mean, by this point, she took everything over according to the lawsuit. So she had all of this, all of this. And she used her husband's, is it marketing firm or something, to do all of the marketing decisions and stuff. So, yeah. The p.g.a mark, Producer's Mark Certification Standard. Producer's Mark Standard. To be licensed, the Producer's Mark, um, interesting phrasing. The producer produced by must have performed in a decision making capacity a major portion of the producing functions on the motion picture. Please note, if a produced by also has a non producing role on the motion picture, or is like acting, or is financing or representing the interests of the financier in connection with the motion picture, they should carefully review the clarifying criteria below, which will be considered in determining whether the producer's mark standard has been met. So, the clarifying criteria is produced bys who also have a non producing role on the motion picture may be licensed, the PG mark, the producer's mark, only if it is demonstrated that without taking into account decisions they made in their non producing role, they performed a major portion of the producing functions in a decision making capacity on the film in their role as a producer only, as evidenced by having substantial responsibility for the overall production and delivery of the film, and making regular, continuous, and substantial decisions regarding production, budgetary, and legal concerns in a constructive and responsible manner. So it also kind of makes me think she was also legally responsible and was able, in theory, to like even more. To me, this adds even more like damning evidence, I guess, for her SH allegations that she didn't bring up. For anyone who says, well, she was in this power dynamic where she wasn't in power, but she was. She was in power. She was above the director in a way. So she could bring legal manners. She chose not to. I mean, I don't even know, it needs to be proven. But if proven just inside of things, which I mean, we have so much evidence for, there is just no question, no, not that, people in power can't be as aged and all that stuff, but like, she's in power. She could fire, she could report, and she is protected so much. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that made much sense. It's late. Produced bys with non-producing roles, such as actor, are those individuals who also contribute to the production in a non-producing capacity, including without limitations, directors, writers, actors, editors, managers, and other representatives. That's why Justin isn't a producer, because all the decisions as a director, like he doesn't have any decisions outside of, and he didn't want, I mean, he already had, like, actor and main actor and director. He's like, I don't want to be a producer, because he would have to have um done things outside of those roles. Okay. Anyways, I think this breakdown over here is like they need to be 35%, they need to have made like 35% impact on development, 20% impact on pre-production, 20% on production, and 25 on post-production. Don't quote me on that, but that is somewhere in, if you go to producersguildawards.com, that's somewhere in there. So, as the actor, the producer and actor combination, they have these guidelines. In general, contributions to the actor's own character, marketing as an actor, and other creative input that is typical of an actor may not be counted towards the individual's producing duties if they also received an actor credit. Contributions to the actor's own character. So even like all of this is kind of doubtful. Like, so what did she do outside of the character? But yeah, they showed quite a lot, like rewriting scenes of other characters and so forth. Um, Okay. Examples of creative contributions that are not typical of an actor include, but are not limited to, selecting and approving principal cast and crew, director, cinematographer, editor, consultant. She did, yeah, hired the editor, consulting on the overall story arc beyond that of the actor's character, consulting on and approving costumes, makeup, and hair on characters not played by the actor. So, hmm. Did she just want the p.g.a mark? Was she like going through this, like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that? Viewing and commenting on dailies that do not involve the actor's character, and consulting on the overall edit with the director, editor, and studio, etc. Oh gosh, this is painful to see. If in addition to performing the producing functions listed in category A below, which are required, and if in addition to these, an actor also personally performs at least two of these other category B functions, that would be considered strong evidence that the actor has met the producer's mark standard. So the actor demonstrated that they personally made regular, continuous, and substantial decisions regarding production, budgetary, and legal concerns in a constructive and responsible manner. Category B. So two of these, yeah, at least two of these. Actor personally, I or A, whatever, was involved in the project prior to all other producers. That's false. Created, so this, all of this needs to be true for this one. Created, identified, or secured the intellectual property on which the project was based. False. Secured the director, writer, or financing before the film was greenlit on a majority of the financing, was, or the majority of the financing was obtained. Actor does not get credit for securing themselves as a critical element of the film. So didn't happen either. Or for resurrected an otherwise stagnant project, or significantly reimagined the script or production before the film was greenlit or financing was obtained. So this she didn't do, because this was all before, and that was already, when she came in, it was already going or starting. Number two, so these two need to happen. Actor, um, an actor personally rendered substantial creative contributions to pre-production and production that are beyond those typical of an actor. Um, yeah, again, but she kind of forced that from what it seems. Actor personally rendered substantial creative contributions to post-production that are beyond those typical of an actor. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now, the question that I feel probably is in some people's minds, and maybe should it be in all, who are these other producers? And for that, maybe I'll look into that overnight or whatever for tomorrow or one of the upcoming lives. Um, because you could say, well, those producers that were expressing and Sony executives or whoever was expressing concern that she was taking over the film, maybe those were not experienced, or they were more like buddy buddy with Wayfair and Justin, and not, you know, yeah, not experienced. Um, and just kind of having him in mind, protecting him, protecting the project. So I wonder, which is fair too. Protecting the director and protecting the project are very fair reasons. Um, but yeah, that should be kept in mind. And I know I hate the food for thought, and like, hey, it's not, completely biased over here. Sorry. But yeah, so there's this rights to rescind, so they can take back the PG mark. I don't think she has or will meet any of these from my scanning of it, but basically, um, data produced by has engaged in the behavior described in section E2DV D5 above. So this is the section. Produced by misinterpretation or omission of material information or material interference with third party fact gathering. A produced by seeking the producer's mark may not withhold or misstate information material to the certification process or materially interfere with the PGA's efforts to gather accurate and confidential information from key department heads and crew members involved in making the film, or for provision to the arbiters reviewing their eligibility. So it could be revoked, it could be rescinded, because if she coerced people like, hey, you have to say this about me, if it comes out that people were forced or manipulated into giving the producers guild kind of information that put her like, yes, she did this, or yes, she contributed, and they realize, wait, I was manipulated into this information, whether they knew at that time or later. Honestly, I feel like that's fair. If it wasn't Blake Lively, if it was someone that you don't know, you would find that fair. Someone should not be interfering, which she did. The panel may take a special notice of any produced by who intentionally withholds or misstates information material to the certification process, or who materially frustrates the truthful. That's an interesting phrase. Or who materially frustrates the truthful disclosure of any third party by obstructing access by the PGA to such party, to coaching, coercing, or improperly influencing a third party to manipulate the outcome of any eligibility determination. If they prove this case, guess what's happening? Blake Lively's PGA mark gets rescinded from this movie. Should the panel determine that a produced by has engaged in such conduct, it may, at its discretion, choose to deny eligibility to that produced by, even if they exercise sufficient responsibility for a major portion of the producing functions to be licensed the producer's mark. Yeah. So I think they're just waiting. They're just like sitting there, probably stressed. Maybe not that stressed. I don't know. But they're just sitting there and just watching how this trial goes, when it goes, if it goes, watching all of the things that are being said and coming in, everything that's being disclosed in these lawsuits and complaints and documents, all the evidence. They're just watching and waiting. If that's proven, if Justin's lawsuit is proven, and these specific things are proven that she really did influence through all or some of these methods, if she doesn't get her PGA mark rescinded, it means that the corruption is like that much bigger. And also, that's like not the biggest battle, the PGA mark. It's like, okay, I don't think it's like that big. Uh, Excuse me. Because it's per project, I believe. If she can't work again, doesn't really matter. No. Was it deserved? And I don't think she'll never work again, no matter what happens. I honestly don't think for either of them. I think if either of them have the very possible outcome of coming back and gaining our trust as the viewers, etc. But at this moment, it's going to be a while, and in a way for both of them at the same time, but one more than the other, especially depending on the outcome. So was it deserved? Blake Lively, and not just the outcome of the lawsuit, sorry, but the outcome also of public opinion. If people are truly going to boycott her film, which it's, I don't feel like there's enough people that would have seen a movie like Simple Favor that believe that Blake isn't deserving of, you know, our dollars to see it or something. So I don't know. Was it deserved? This is just my own slide. Blake Lively indeed ended up making major decisions and took control over most of the film once production started and beyond. But if that was through force, should there be a caveat as to who receives the PG mark and also producer credit? And I just read like there is. If it was force, if she influenced, she should not have it. So I include this, and then closing thoughts and the thank you. Closing thoughts, I don't really it's been a while. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. I really have to use the restroom. And then it is really late, and my parakeets, they've been kind of sleeping all evening because I was upstairs with guests and stuff, but they need to sleep and I need to go. But I finally did this movie. Let me know what you think. I know I didn't cover every single thing, and I don't know every single thing. And like I said, there's the blueprint, there's like the basic, the rules and hierarchy and all that. And then there are exceptions, or like, yeah, exceptions. And in truthful or whatever, I'll just like stop. Sorry. I I'm with you that, this probably happens a lot. Um, the idea is not if it's common, the idea is if it's right. And also, the idea is, did she use SH claims? Did she latch onto things, manipulate facts to get what she wanted? And that's what they're trying to prove. And to anyone who's like saying, well, he's trying to deflect, he's trying to like talk about other things, it's like, no, because why would she have these sh claims if they didn't happen? Why would she latch on to these quite random instances when it didn't happen? I don't know. Not when it didn't happen, like if they didn't happen, so they're trying to prove that the sh claims didn't happen. And also, a major part of that is, why would she lie about that? And then, she's trying to prove that there was a retaliation through a smear campaign, which is, she's basically kind of doing not a just a bad job, but she's also smearing, she's having her own smear campaign against Justin. If you watch regular media, like TV shows or, news channels, etc., very hmm, not lightly, what's the, like, not in your face, not as obvious. They're not on Justin's side or even neutral. So mm, I want to see I want to see the subpoenas for their phone records, for their conversations, their text messages, just like they did with Justin and Jennifer Abel and, gosh, what was here and the other one? Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't think of her name. probably a good thing because they need to work, they need to like be forgotten as far as this is concerned, and they need to like have, careers and so forth. But I want to see the opposite. Like, where is the subpoena? Probably Brian Friedman was like, wait, we're doing that now? We're not waiting for discovery. We're like speeding up the process. So maybe that's coming. The subpoena, their subpoena is coming for them. Or maybe they're just waiting for the amendment to see what's coming. Honestly, probably that's what they're waiting. So we have 30 minutes on Eastern time over here since until like Monday. But a lot of people say that it's not going to be Monday because it's a national holiday. But I had two lawyers tonight in the house, not this kind of lawyer, but two, or yeah, one is a litigation lawyer, one is not, I guess. I don't know. But they're both working tomorrow. So I wonder, can they still submit the amendment? It would be really fun. Also Tuesday I have something that um it's like in the middle of the day. So if it comes Tuesday, hopefully it's right at the beginning or later on. But I'm so curious because I don't think they can get another extension. And they shouldn't. Because they, all the other stuff, the discovery process and all that stuff, they can continue, they can add things as far as I can understand. Anyways, I hope you also like this aesthetic. I'm using my iPhone because I found out how I can use this but not the camera, which in fact it might not be too bad. But I don't think I can record this. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. And tomorrow I ordered another like capture card, not the Cam Link one. Hopefully this one works. Is a lot more cheap, a lot cheaper. And yes, sorry. With that, I'll say goodnight. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. And let me know below if you have any other questions. If you know of any other things that I misstated or didn't include, or adjacent information. Um, Correct me if I said anything wrong, or let me know, hey, this is not what I know, this is not what I hear, or whatever. Again, a lot of this honestly was from research, but also I kind of also kind of know it in my bones to some degree, so it was kind of that combination. But I hope you have a wonderful night or day or wherever you are. Peace, love, and compassion. And I think we're in for a great week. If not, I'll still read Blake's original complaint if she's not coming out with an amendment. Because, yeah, but hopefully she is. Have a wonderful night. And also, well, I'll make another video for like stuff. I've started finding some stuff online and it's pretty cool. But I love these I don't know. They're like different, but I'm into simple now. And it was hard to find something simple that is more fitted to my face or personality. Okay. Anyways, have a wonderful day and I'll talk to you later. Bye.